We're talking hardball, the bull and the better. Talking hardball, part of Betting Weekly. Handicappers, they're all in the know. Pick some winners and then we say, let's go. So come on, it's time to watch the show. We're talking hardball, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw. We're talking hardball, over under on the hot dogs. Talking hardball, bring your giant bag of peanuts. Talking hardball.
Welcome into the final version of Betting Weekly Hardball on this first week of the show. I'm Doug Kezirian, joined by analytics capper Albert Nguyen, and we are going to finish the week strong. It's been a fun first week here in the part of the Betting Weekly family, and also we have Betting Weekly Fast Break coming up in 1 hour from now, 3 p.m. Eastern, every weekday. Betting Weekly Hardball, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, breaking down the baseball cards. And also, sometimes, like each of the past 2 days, we have games going on live. And there's always that element or first pitch coming up during the show. Albert, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, man. No day games today, but I'm excited about tonight's slate. It was a good opening show on Tuesday. Thank you for having me on. Talking about basketball. I'm excited to get into baseball. Baseball has been really good for me personally as we start out the season, and I hope to continue it throughout this weekend.
Yesterday on this show, we eked out I think 0.23 units of profit. It would have been a monster day, but I was the square that took the Dodgers. Even though as I was talking about them, I was relaying that really sharp money was on Arizona and the over. Sure enough, Arizona got there. I felt like an idiot, but it was also 0-0 in the fourth, and somehow I didn't win a first five under. But that happens. That is the sport of baseball that does not have a clock, and we see crazy stuff. But then again, we've also seen crazy stuff in the NBA that does have a clock as well. But we turn the page to today. That's all that matters. We have some interesting games to get on. We also want you to get involved in the conversation. Corey chiming in, are the Rockies worse than last year's White Sox? Well, I would say yes. We're going to get
Yes.
to the Rockies game, who got smoked in a doubleheader yesterday. Now the Padres come to town. So certainly a fair question from Corey. We'll get to that game. And in the betting world, it is a marquee game, but there's also the baseball fan of us. So I do want to talk about games that are probably going to have a few more eyeballs on it, and that's in New York with the Mets hosting the Cubs. Mets have started to get things rolling. Cubbies, really nice surprise team. The lineup, we've talked about it with Adam the Bull the last couple of days. The Metropolitans minus $1.50, low total, pretty low total, all things considered. I know we're seeing that more and more with the 7.5, especially with Cubs games, but um, I guess the market hasn't really caught up to their offense and things like that. But it's a good pitching matchup with Jamison Tyone against Clay Holmes. Tyone was the number 2 pick when he came out behind Strasburg and ahead of Machado. So Tyone was for the Pirates, then went to the Yankees, and now he's with the Cubbies and pitching pretty well. I'm really intrigued by this game because I like to ride the hot hand in baseball, and I talked about it with the Phillies the last few days. I'm on the Cubbies first 5 money line plus $1.18. I like Holmes, and this lineup's certainly solid. But here it is at first 5 line is plus 123 at Bet Rivers. How are you seeing this, Albert?
That's interesting. Said you said you like going with the hot hand right now. The Cubs have lost the last two. They've actually been outscored, 6-17. I think the Giants really put it on them a couple nights ago. But I agree with you. I would lean the Cubs here. I think it's a buy low spot for a really good team, and I think my favorite play in this is going to be the under. To be honest, I'm a fan of both pitchers. I think both pitchers are coming off really good performances. Cubs with Tyon, I think 5 days ago. He pitched 6 innings, only gave up 3 hits, I believe, and only two earned runs. So a very quality start there. Only 88 pitches, so he's rested. And then you look at Mets and Clayton Holmes. He's been on fire, right? He's basically won the every start, right? In the last 5 starts, he's 5-0 in the last 5. Over 5.5 innings pitched in those, and so He's doing well. I like the under here. I lean with you on the Cubs. I mean, this is a good value play for the road team, right? Because they're coming off back-to-back losses. But I kind of like the under a lot more. And you know me, when it comes to like marquee games or like big games, I lean the under anyways. And a lot of the numbers here kind of check out.
So the Mets certainly have Mets type games and things get dramatic at the end, but their bullpen ERA is top 10, I believe. The Cubs, not so much. They had an extra inning game. And I meant hot hand, meaning like I don't think the market's caught up with this Cubs team and how they're hitting and how they're performing because so much of the math modelers who shape the market use last year's stats
Mm.
as a baseline. And I think there's still it's a stubborn betting market. I say that a lot. So there's still, in my eyes, value on a Cubs team just by how they've started this year. To your point, they have lost a couple games with the Giants. One went extras and they gave up a big number in the extras. But just overall, this Cubs team, I think it was undervalued coming into the season. I still think there's value on them. Now the Mets are legit. They're starting to hit. They're a fun team. But would you chop it up first 5 under, game under because of the bullpen component and the potential for extras with the ghost runner? How do you sort of weigh that with the extra innings stuff? Because obviously games can get out of hand with the ghost runner.
Yeah, when I'm on a side, Doug, and you know this, just following me the last few years, I'm gonna like every way of it, right? If we're talking about basketball, I'm gonna like the first quarter, first half, full game. If we're talking about baseball, first three is getting really popular now, Doug. Not only the first five, but I would do first three, first five, and a full game. And I hope to go 2-1 there at worst, right? And so I like the under no matter how you splice it. The first five obviously is gonna be a lot sharper because you're dealing with 2 starters.
So it's worth mentioning just for people who don't like the push in blackjack. You get a result in the game line, but not the first three, not first five. You're not guaranteed. You have a lot of pushes if you're on the two-way line, but you can also lay half runs. And there's a lot of ways to bet. The betting menus are expansive for sure, but it is nice to kind of isolate the wager if you want to avoid a bullpen or things like that, or a team's on a roll and their bullpen's been used back-to-back games. Obviously, the manager has to adjust accordingly. So, and I want to also reiterate, I'm at half units for all these, unless I state otherwise. Just it's good. Baseball's volume grind. No need to get crazy. Obviously, first five money line is getting juice here at 123. But normally, if you're laying juice, it can get pretty dangerous. You got to be judicial and frugal in that regard. I mentioned the Phillies. What a comeback last night. Big 3-run shot, I believe, in the eighth to pull within run. They manufacture another one and get the win eventually. So this team takes care of business in Tampa or wherever the Tampa Bay Rays play. And now they're in Cleveland facing a Guardian squad that's also been strong out of the gates. I'm going to lean to Philly here,
Mm.
but I don't love it. I do love what I've seen from Aaron Nola lately. He obviously struggled coming out of the gates and I liked his stuff. I mean, 6 shutout innings in his last game, 7 innings of 1 earned in the previous start. I think he's a bet on pitcher, and I have always liked him in like playoff baseball. Like his
Yeah.
ball gets heavy when the weather turns and he's facing some teams. He's a big game pitcher, and I like how he's turned things around. I think we're going to see a strong performance from Nola. So I lean Phillies. I lean first 5 under, stuff like that. Not ready to pull the trigger. What about you?
I lean the under again in this game. I think you're right. Aaron Nola is back. Even when he was struggling, Doug, he was averaging 90 plus pitches a game, right? The last two where he's won, he beat the Cubs and then he beat the Diamondbacks, both two really good hitting teams. He had I think on average 105 pitches per game out of those two. So I mean, he's going to be the workhorse for you. And I think Philly, both teams are actually playing really good baseball, right? Philly's won 8 out of the last 12. Cleveland's won, I believe, 5 straight, also 8 out of the last 10 games. And so it's tough when it comes to the side. I just have a better feel when it comes to the total with these first 2 games. Again, another marquee games. Both teams are 22 and 15, best one of the best records in the entire league. And so I like the under here. And before you even ask, Doug, I know you're gonna ask first five and first three. Same thing as the previous game. If I'm gonna be under for the full game to protect me from extra innings BS, if you will, I'm gonna like the first five and first three as well for the under.
Yeah, I mean, some games have really good bullpens, right? Sometimes you don't get those bullpen ERAs, and you're at the mercy of it. So, Detroit's pitching today. Some of these good bullpen ERA. I mentioned the Mets. I'm going to add a play here that I didn't expect to add, but you're right. Nola has been lights out. 5.5 strikeouts
Hmm.
at Bet Rivers right now. Over 5.5 is -125. I think he's been pitching well, and then you're saying he's going deep into games. He had 109 pitches in his last outing, 8 strikeouts. So he's gone over 5.5 in 5 straight starts. Now it gets a little hairy. A couple of them were 6. And the Guardians team, I almost called them the Tribe. The Guardians team is not a high strikeout, but they're also not like completely able. They average. I'm seeing 7.84 strikeouts a game. So, and you have the interleague component here. I'm okay back in Nola here. I think for a half unit, I'll do it on Nola here. It's one way to sort of, if you like the under, but you like a power pitcher, I think that's one way to, you still need offense to not deliver. And I mentioned I had 0-0 game in the fourth yesterday with Dodgers D-backs and couldn't get under 4.5 home. So that's one way to do it. Now, obviously, he can pitch great and go 7 shutout innings and have 5 strikeouts and the under hits and not the over. But I'll roll the dice here. I like over -125 at 5.5 strikeouts.
I like that a lot. I mean, you mentioned Aaron Nola, 8.66, 8 and 7 strikeouts in his last five for an average of 7. I think 5.5 is pretty safe, even if even if Cleveland kind of gets to him early. Like we've seen where he's given up 3 or 4 runs early, and he still gets to 90 plus pitches. I think if he gets 5 to 6 innings, he's going to hit that number pretty easily. And plus, the Guardians, just looking at the numbers here, I mean, you're making me think about the Phillies side a lot more because when we're looking at their batters against right-handed pitching, Guardians inferior when it comes to average, 245 against 258, inferior or less than when it comes to hits, inferior when it comes to drawing walks. So I right now the numbers suggest that as a Phillies play, again, I just feel a little more safe with these two starters on the under, especially the first five under.
If I look at it now more, this might be a banger, to be honest. He's only gone under 5.5 strikeouts in one start, and that was facing the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So even when he's been touched up a little bit, he's had a lot of slack on the rope. His fewest pitches in a start this year is 93. So he's been left in games to get outs. And, that's how you build trust. And it's refreshing that managers aren't, preserving, coddling these guys. So this might be my best bet of the day the more I think about it. So I like that a lot. Let's keep it moving. We'll touch on a couple other games before we get to the oh so intriguing Colorado Rockies. And I know Corey's chiming in. He saw what we were covering. He liked Mets -1.5 plus 140 for him, and he says the Guards are a good team. I can get them at a plus number at home. I'll take it. That's fair. It's value. A lot of people were saying that this morning before the market move with D-backs and Dodgers, which we'll get to momentarily. But I want to start in Minneapolis with the Twins hosting the Giants, two teams that I think are going to be at least in the mix at the end of the season. Twins have started out a little disappointing, but I think they're going to be there by the end. I just don't love who they have on the bump today. They're rolling with Chris Paddock, and that's I think dangerous if you're a Twins fan or Twins backer. I do not believe in him. Now, part of that is I am biased towards Jordan Hicks. When he was on the Cardinals early in his career and he was in the bullpen, I just thought this guy was lights out. I thought he was the next great closer, just unhittable speed and just and then that fizzled, and then he became a starter, and I liked backing him at times, and I just don't know what I'm going to get. It's sort of a mixed bag, and I like the idea of going to San Francisco because I felt like that's an organization that maybe can right his ship. So I lean San Francisco and under, even though Paddock is not my favorite guy to back. I think it's a big number with good bullpens here. So I like the under 9. I feel like it's a little too high, and I think one of these offenses can definitely not deliver, even though I do think they're better than people realize. So I've kind of talked out of both sides of my mouth there.
I would say this is the first official play for me on the show. I do like the Giants here on the road. I have this weird quirk. We all have these superstition, but I just don't believe it's not black or white. And this is not something that I use to handicap all these games, but I just don't believe a city can have so much positive things happen to them. So right now the T-Wolves are so good, right? They're in the Western Conference semifinals. They just won game two. They're feeling themselves. I don't think the baseball team is gonna be as good at the same time. That's just me. Again, that's a superstitious thing. I like the Giants today. I know you mentioned that Chris Paddock is hard to back. I mean, he's only 1-4 in his last 5. But if you look and dive deeper into the numbers, he hasn't had that bad of
Right.
outings, right? It's his offense. I mean, in the last 5 starts, these are the Twins, offensive run production: 0, 4, 0, 1, and 4. I mean, it's gonna be hard to win any of those games as a starter when your team only scores 9 runs in 5 games. So I think it's going to continue. I think their bats are going to continue to struggle. And Jordan Hicks, Doug nailed it, right on the nose. Even though he's struggling a little bit when you look at the numbers, he has really nasty stuff, and he's still going late into games. In his last 5 games, he's averaged 95 pitches, over 5 innings pitched. So I think he's going to have a bounce back against a Minnesota Twins, batting lineup that is really struggling. It's kind of like a get right spot for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm with you on Paddock. He gave up 9 earned in his opening start, and that was against the White Sox of all teams. But he's been respectable. 5 innings, 2 earned, 5 innings, 3 earned. And with the bullpens involved, I think lines nine's a bettable number on the under. And I hate unders in over unders. Why not just the first 5, avoid the extras? Now I know it's built into the line and all that. And just 9 does feel high. So I at least lean under 9
Mm.
on that one. But you have an official play on the Giants. I like it minus 103 at Bet Rivers. And look, everyone has their own sort of theories and quirks, and too much going right in it. And by the way, this is a city in a state that is a tortured fan base. I mean, I know Cleveland gets a lot of ink and pub as the tortured fan base, but don't sleep on the Vikings, man. That fan base has had it pretty tough. Twins did win a World Series way back when, but man, it's a tough. I have a good buddy who he refused after a while because he lost and had so many bad beats in the Metrodome. He refused to bet
Mm.
any more games in the Metrodome. And we're talking Vikings, Twins, Final Four. When the
Mhm.
Final Four was there, he's like, nope, not touching it. So he celebrated the day they blew that thing up. So look, everyone's got their own sort of betting angle, and I love that you are taking this. So and also it's a team that's underachieved. So we'll see if they flip the switch. Now to one of the marquee games, at least out west. Dodgers and D-backs. The Snakes got a lot of sharp money yesterday. I know you were on them, Albert,
Yep.
and it proved to be the right side. And I talked to a buddy, and I saw him last night, watching the Golden Knights game, and I asked him why he bet the D-backs because I had heard sharp money was on the D-backs. I didn't know why. He said they were off. Dodgers were flying east to west. They haven't been that good. They've been sort of a mirage in terms of like more bark than bite. Just obviously Freeman's had some big hits, but Mookie's not hitting that great. Otani went yard in the ninth, but still they haven't in the bottom half of the lineup. He really wasn't that impressed with. He says they're overpriced and their pitching's not great. And the pitching that they're getting has been sort of May's been pitching better than he should. And obviously, Yamamoto came back to earth yesterday, but he just thought the D-backs sitting at home, waiting for them at home, plus money with a Dodgers team that had to play the day before in Miami and travel. It certainly made sense. So that made sense. So turning the page, no travel here. Dodgers are underdogs, I believe, for the first time all season. I'll double check that. But the D-backs minus a buck 20 here. I'm not getting involved, but it's hard to pass up on the Dodgers. I know their lineup's not really hitting, but in this D-backs lineup can hit, and that's what's ultimately has me passing. But you like this game.
I do. This is going to be my second play of the day. I actually like Arizona. I think there's going to be a lot of money tonight, expecting a bounce back for the Dodgers. I think another thing people don't realize, this is a 4-game series, not 3. So they have 2 more games in Arizona after this, which is going to complete their 10-game road trip. So I mean, although they were tired yesterday, it doesn't mean they're not tired today. I think they're pretty tired of being on the road. So I also think Sasaki is going to come back down to earth. He started off really hot against. I think he pitched against the Phillies right at the beginning of April. Amazing outing, but they're like babying him in, right? He started with
Right.
like 60 or 70 pitches. I think the most recent game, because they were in a blowout, the Dodgers beat the Braves 10-3. He almost hit 100 pitches, 98 pitches. But he does have a ton of talent. I think he still walks too many guys. He's averaging 2.2 walks in only, sub 5 innings. I think that's gonna bite him, and I also think Arizona's been, underachieving, right? This is a really talented team, and I expect Arizona to really come out. I mean, if you look at this division, I don't think you're gonna get many nights off, right? It's not only the Dodgers and the Padres, but people forget about the Diamondbacks as well. They're sitting at 20 and 18. I think they're gonna go on a run here and kind of challenge both LA and San Diego.
So you think they will in fact challenge? They won't just be a team that's good and just overshadowed.
I th I think when I say challenge is within, I don't know, within 5 to 7 games in the standings at the end. But from a talent standpoint, it's obvious that Dodgers and Padres are in a league of their own, but I would not undervalue the Diamondbacks, especially, they get to play half their games in that elevation, so they're gonna be rolling from an offensive standpoint, you would expect. And then if they can just get their pitching right, I mean, I'm high on Arizona, just like I'm high on the Rangers, not because I'm a big fan of theirs, but I think they're a lineup that hasn't really hit their stride yet. They've been struggling for the first 40 games of the season. I think once they get, some more reps under them, I'm gonna like the Diamondbacks moving forward.
I'm with you in terms of I guess I better way for me to say is I'm always scared to bet against the Diamondbacks. Like that,
Mm.
I joked the other night that they have these games and these rallies, and I always feel like every time I look up at a Diamondbacks game, there's a ball bouncing in the gap that one of their guys hit, and it's like Pac-12 after dark baseball style. I just feel like there's always these crazy rallies. The offense can hit. They pull games out of nowhere. They have some wild games, and that's what it's like to bet against the D-backs. I really am scared to do it just because they have a distinct home field advantage, whether it's the altitude you alluded to, whether it's the just the talent they have. They are kind of underpriced in the market typically, but here they are favored. And I just double checked Dodgers third. This is the closing number. Dodgers third time as an underdog. They're 1-1. They were dog against the Cubs, won. Sorry, lost, and then they were dog recently against the Braves and won. So, and they've been like plus a buck 20 or so. So it's not just nibbling like plus 102.
Mhm.
Now to the featured team, the Colorado Rockies, the 6-31 Colorado Rockies. And when you're talking unit sizes, I believe if you had bet on them, they're down 20 and a half units or 21 and a half units. Just ridiculous. And Kyle Freeland said some stuff post game after he got shelled. Tigers swept a doubleheader after a comeback the previous game or the previous day when they had the 8-6, I believe they won. They covered the run line and extras. So the Padres are a buck 75 in at Coors. And on the run line, they're minus 125, a high over under 11 and a half because San Diego, not exactly throwing a stud pitcher themselves. It's Randy Vasquez, but Sensatella's going for the Rocks. And I don't know, man. Just in general, Albert, you're always looking for value. It's tough to just, beat up on bad teams. I get it because in baseball, even the worst teams usually win a third of their games. Even the best teams lose a third of their games. That's not happening with Colorado. It didn't
Mm.
happen last year with the White Sox. This Rockies team may win 30 games. Seriously, they may win 30, 35 games this year. They're pitiful. How do you approach this team in general? I personally, I touched on, I'm not afraid to play bully ball. I'll lay it. This team's historically bad, and I don't think the market's caught up.
30 games would actually be a win for them at this point, right? They're 6 and 31. They are tied for the worst 37 game start in league history, right? 1988 Orioles started 6 and 31 and this year's Rockies started 6 and 31. Let me throw some more numbers at you, Doug. So they're the top 3 guys getting paid for them. Chris Bryant, 27 million a year. He's hitting 154 and he's on the IL. Kyle Freeland, you mentioned him. Keep believing in us. Keep riding. Second highest paid player there. He's 0-4 with a 6.5 ERA. And then the third most price player there is Ryan McMahon. He's batting 190. So I mean, it's not getting any better for them. They're playing one of the best teams in the league tonight in the Padres. The Padres might even hit that, total by themselves, to be honest. I'm on Woody Page's Twitter. He goes, Rockies, worst team in the majors. Their AAA team in Albuquerque is the second worst team in that league. So there's no help coming. Nothing is on the horizon for them. This is a really bad team. They're still paying Nolan Arenado, for God's sake. He's been on the Cardinals for like 4 years. So, I mean, this is a really bad franchise to really back. And I mentioned this, I'm actually doing like a YouTube a live YouTube, thing every day, Doug. I know you haven't seen it. I only do it for like 10, 15 minutes. But I talked about the Padres, sorry, I talked about the Rockies yesterday. The same exact point that you were trying to make is, as bettors and handicappers, all we're doing is trying to find situational value day in and day out. And it's impossible to back a team like the Rockies because not only is the talent not there, but it doesn't even feel like they themselves believe they should be on the field. They can't catch the ball, they can't get ground outs. Like, this is a really bad team. And so I'm just gonna fade this team until they show me otherwise. And when I mean they show me otherwise, it's not winning one game flash in the pan, right? It's like winning a couple series in a row. That's when I know they've really turned it around. But right now, they're on like a 28-29 game win pace. So 30 would actually be a win for them right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the fielding miscues. It was bad news bears yesterday that led to some of these runs. They just don't have the pitching or the hitting or the bullpen. There's nothing you can sort of point to. And to your point, the big money on their payroll is going out to worthless stuff. And that's a great point about the AAA team. Help is not on the way. And then the Padres come in, and we talked about it. I mentioned that the D-backs and Dodgers, Arizona was off yet. San Diego was off yesterday. And so I just think, how can you not lay run line with the Padres? I'd love to talk to someone who doesn't see value in it or whatever it is. So I'm on the Padres for a half unit. I'm on the Padres team total as well.
Yeah.
And that's because this Colorado pitching meets this offense and altitude. I mean, there's just no relief in sight. So the Padres should get their licks. Even at 6.5, it's a big total. I'll still take the over. And I'm going a little same game parlay. It's pretty simple. It's the game over 11.5 with the Padres money line. So side and total, not run line and total. There's the value's not there because the same game parlay pays plus 160.
Hmm.
If you did the run line and total over 11.5, it'd be plus 190. So I just, in case, I mean, like I said, Vasquez is pitching, so it's not like we have an ace on the bump. So maybe it gets out of hand and it's a crazy game with both teams hitting. So if I'm going to do a same game parlay, I'm okay just taking just plus 160 instead of needing the plus 190.
A little bit of, I guess, pushback or question here. What if you were just on the Padres in general? So you did the Padres team total, right? Parlayed with the money line instead of the full game team total. Is that even possible?
Don't think it is. I
Okay.
can play around with it. I doubt that that is possible.
Okay.
Some books don't even let you do side and total, and
Well,
some do. Thankfully, Bet Rivers does. You can do that kind of stuff because they are correlated. I was actually talking to the buddies I was hanging out with last night. Is shouldn't you be betting White Sox and under parlay because if they win, it's going to be, they can only get a few runs, so it'd be like just a fluke strong pitching performance, but then you get like plus 500 or something. So I don't know. So what are you officially playing on this game?
Yeah, so my third official play on this show is actually another parlay. So it's gonna be Manny Machado over 1.5 hits. Plus, if we haven't talked about the Yankees game, but I'm gonna go with Oswaldo Cabrera over 0.5 bases. So Machado over 1.5 bases plus Cabrera over 1.5 bases. Both of them are around minus 165, 170 each. I don't know what the parlay is. Hopefully, you can do that math while I'm talking. But I'll go through my reasoning. Machado, obviously, they're playing against a horrible team in Colorado. He's going to be in elevation. And even if he just walks one time, I think he has very, very high chance to score a run, right? Because he has good hitters behind him as well. And then if you look at Cabrera, he hasn't had a hit in the last 5 games, but he's hitting over 250 on the year. I think he's due for a hit today. I think it's good value, especially in a ballpark in Sacramento that isn't, from a size standpoint, is not really a big leagues, a ballpark there in Sacramento. So I like both Machado and Cabrera to do a little damage on the bases tonight.
Okay, and you're doing total bases, not hits,
Bases, yeah,
just
I did,
clarifying. Okay.
yeah, I did mention
And I
hits, I mean bases, yes.
okay, and I know walks don't count towards bases, but when you're on the base path, does that count? I get some of this stuff confused and I go all over the place. So I wanted to just clarify some of that, and I'm trying to find the parlay as well.
Yeah, my understanding is that it does count. So let's say he does the first base doesn't count because it's a walk, but if let's say
Right.
he steals one or he scores,
Right.
from first, then obviously it's gonna be
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Good stuff. So that's always nice to um kind of just load up on bad teams. So so you're saying over 1.5. It is kind of fun to do these multiple game I've never been a parlay guy, but I've thought outside the box. Like on the baseball show, which is coming up top of the hour, betting weekly fast break. I had a same game parlay that paid 260 or 255, and another one I really liked for a full unit that was plus 106, and it covered with ease. So
Nice.
same game parlays in certain games and certain sport, like there is serious value there. Have you gotten into it?
I haven't. I'm starting to just because there's so many games and so many different angles when it comes to baseball. I think it just makes it less stale, right? Because you know me, I'm all about the sides and the totals. But if I do one or two parlays a week just to keep it interesting, it's nice. And plus, I'm only
Right.
doing like a two-legger, right? I'm not trying to hit a home run with a 20 legger, lottery ticket, nothing like that. It's a two-legger and I believe in both. I would be doing these separately by themselves anyway, so I'm just putting them together just cuz they're a little juicy.
And it should be in the neighborhood of plus 150 for that. So it should be looking good on that front. Yeah, I mean, I do like in basketball in these playoff series, and you think it could be a blowout and game end early. I'll think of the variance and lean into it, or a game like this Padres game where it could just get out of hand. And some alt lines or things I also consider. An alt total in this Padres game is not the worst idea in the world. They just gave up 10, they being the Rockies, just gave up a bunch of runs. They lost 10-2 and then 11-1. And so the pitching, I mean, why should it get any better with the Padres in town, right? So you can do some alt team totals. Now, granted, their game team total 6.5, so it's already pretty high. But they should put up crooked numbers early and often throughout this game. So that's something that catches my eyes. All right, Max Peterson chiming in the chat. We want you to join the conversation. He wanted to ask about the Brewers game. And like I said, we're willing to talk a bunch of games. So this Rays team just coming off a brutal loss where I think they had a 5-1 lead yesterday at home and they blew it. Quintana's on the bump. Now he just gave up 6 earned to the to Wrigley Field or to the Cubs at Wrigley North, as sometimes they call the Brewers home stadium because there's so many Cubs fans there when the Cubs are there. But before that, Quintana's been great. Now, he is a former Cub, but that was many, many years ago. That was 2020 was the last time he faced. So I don't know if it's like, oh, they had the scouting report on him. Again, that was 5 years ago. And so he just had a bad outing. So the question is, do you expect Quintana to bounce back or um, do we like the other side? And you know, I don't believe in this Rays team at all, but I don't think they're awful. And Littell's going. I think he's a little bit more reliable pitcher. I think Quintana's been more of a flash in the pan, and I expected maybe not getting rock 6 earned like you saw in the last game, but he's definitely not going to be throwing lights out like he was to start the season. I mean the price is right. I'm already passing, but I would lean Rays if I had to make a play here.
Yeah, I think this is the first game where we kind of go against each other. No official play for me, but I just don't believe in this Tampa Bay team. I know one of your buddies when it came to the Dodgers D-backs last night, they were talking about the rest advantage. The rest advantage tonight is Milwaukee, right? They had the day off yesterday, so they've probably been in Tampa Bay this entire time. I like Quintana in the regular season, so I do think that he has the ability to bounce back. Depends on how you define bounce back. I mean, he did give up 6 runs and only pitched 5 innings last time out, but he usually only pitches 5 to 6 innings anyway, so it really just depends how you define bounce back for him. Because I think no matter unless he's, like, unless he gives up 6 in the first, I think he's gonna see that 5th inning anyway. So, with that said, I just don't believe in the Rays lineup. I like Milwaukee. They're a little more versatile, especially on the base pads, right? They're gonna go for they're a lot more aggressive. So, give me Milwaukee tonight, a small lean, little value there.
I Fair enough. Like you said, first time all show we've disagreed. I don't know how much you've had a chance to look at some of the futures market. Obviously, there's tons where it could be awards market, and I just love that Aaron Judge within like a couple weeks was minus 1,000 to win the AL MVP again.
'Cause
Otani, the
Trout got
favorite. I
hurt too, right? Trout got hurt
What's
and
that?
he was going up. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is right there. I believe he was the runner up a year ago, but and then he's at 10 to 1, and then everyone else 50 to 1 or longer. So
insane.
I wonder if there's a guy who can make a run late, like frankly Witt did last year, or it's just a foregone conclusion. I'd be careful in the National League going with Otani. Obviously, the pitching's not there, so that's a serious component to this, where he had that advantage when he was with the Angels and won the AL MVP. He's clearly capable of winning it just batting, but um, Tucker's there's no value there at plus 350. Obviously, the market and the numbers have crashed. Freeman's interesting just because if the Dodgers have a crazy record, then and he's just been that special and he's won it before in Atlanta. Different lineup, different situation. So no one's jumping out. I was on the Lindor bandwagon last year trying to get value when he was 40 to 1 or 50 to 1, and then he got to 15 or 10 or whatever it was. I don't know, man. I mean, the Mets have Soto now. Any futures markets in the award or futures that caught your eye in the awards market?
It wouldn't surprise me if the Padres finish in front of the Dodgers, and if they do that, you have to look at Tatis, right? Best player on the best team. I think there's a little value there, but I think you're gonna get longer odds the more you wait, because we haven't even had the Otani explosion yet this year. So once he goes on like that 2-week stretch, you know it's gonna happen sometime very soon. It's gonna get a lot shorter for him, longer for everyone else. When that happens, I think that's when you can see value on Tatis, and honestly, you can see value on Padres futures, right? Winning that division, in my opinion. I just think they're that good of a team, and I think they have a real clear cut home field advantage, which is kind of rare in baseball.
That's a good point. So this is a good exercise because let me ask you, just pepper you a question. Do you think Tatis can win MVP even if they don't win the division?
No.
Okay, because they're 7 to 1. Um, they're 7 to 1 to plus 700 to win the division.
Yeah.
And I would say then maybe it's just better to bet that than the
Big-
Tatis 3 to 1.
Yeah.
I do think there's a scenario where if they have a great record and just because the Dodgers are the Dodgers and they have so much talent that Tatis could win the MVP in the wild card. Like if they have the second or third best record, it's not their fault that the Dodgers just overloaded. And
If they're both
um,
above 100 wins, yeah, I think you can make that argument. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the and I mean, look, Trout won this award in an 81 win team, right? So if Tatis is that like the Dodgers, it's not just cannibalization, it's fatigue, it's whatever, it's dismissive that lineup can do all that. So I do think there's a scenario where Tatis could win MVP, but obviously the Padres would have to be really good. But the 7 to 1 is enticing.
Man, I'm looking up the Aaron Judge numbers because I haven't looked at the stats in a couple weeks. That's nuts. He's hitting 400, 12 home runs, 34 RBIs, leading in both, and 56 hits, leading the league as well. Man, I had no idea. That's a historic season.
Well, that's the thing is people were asking me is like, what do you think his batting average is going to be at the end of the year? And look, they moved him up in the lineup. He's got, I mean, Goldschmidt's a name, but he's not vintage Goldie, right? And then
Yeah.
Bellinger, I know he went yard, but come on. So Wells is behind him. I wonder if he's just going to start getting walked.
Mm.
Last
Barry,
year,
Barry
I'll never
Bonds
forget. So
treatment.
he was getting like one walk a game. Maybe his over under his prop was a half minus 110, like literally every game. And then the Mets played him on a Tuesday, Wednesday, quick 2 game Subway Series, and the Mets walked him, I think, 3 times. And the next game and they won, the Mets won. And then the next day, I think he was 1.5, and he was 1.5 the rest of the year. I mean, it was just crazy. Now remember, they had Soto. I mean, they had other guys in the lineup, and he's a beat. I don't know why anyone pitches to him right now. Like, I really don't. Now, if Rice gets on, I get it, but I mean, Judge is just locked in.
They got to make a
I say
trade
that,
for
but he
another
went 0 for
bat,
4
right?
yesterday. What's that?
They got to make a trade for another bat.
Well, they're certainly a team that's willing to, for sure. And you know, I I don't know their farm system. They've under delivered in recent trade deadlines. I've been disappointed with their inability to deliver and execute, and they didn't go get the right guys. I thought last year they could have done something extra. Didn't do it. I don't know if anyone was beating the Dodgers, but game one obviously could have gone the Yankees' way if not for the
Yeah.
Freeman dinger. I I just gotta wait. I don't understand why more teams aren't pitching around him at least. But yeah, he's been an absolute beast. So minus 1,000, maybe even cheap if you want to, the futures parlays, if anybody's into that. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate everyone chiming in and joining the conversation. Just to recap, we are Monday through Friday, Betting Weekly Hardball, part of the Bet Rivers Network, part of the Betting Weekly umbrella, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Monday through Friday, we'll have a rotation of guests. Adam the Bull's going to be in several days, like he was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. We had Albert, we had Chris, or we have Chris in the NBA one. He's going to do some baseball as well. Wes did a great job on the first one this week to start things off on Monday. So a lot of good stuff. Albert, we appreciate you chiming in today.
Thank you so much, man. Let's cash some bets. Let's go. What do we have? 5 official bets today. Let's go 5-0.
Yeah, that's a good point. We should recap your play. So you said your first official one was Giants money line, right? And
Yep.
then you like the Diamondbacks money line, and then you have the parlay with Machado over 1.5 bases and Cabrera over a half base, right?
Correct.
I had a couple more, but again, I'm only doing half units, things like that. So Cubs first five money line. Then I had some leans, and I am on the Padres run line. Padres team total over 6.5, and then let's do a quarter unit on the Padres money line with the over 11.5 plus 160. So I didn't love the card. I was going to look ahead to the weekend too, just because you don't want to have Friday on such a limited discussion. But sometimes the opportunities don't present themselves. I really liked yesterday's card and also in the NBA, but sometimes that's the case. You just got to let it breathe. And frankly, when the Padres face the Rockies and the Colorado's playing like this, it's hard to justify a bet on anything else.
Yeah. Well, Doug, thank you for having me on, and I'm definitely gonna jump on and watch you guys in 20 minutes on the NBA show for sure.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks to everyone. So join us, as Albert just alluded to, Betting Weekly Fast Break, top of the hour, 3 p.m. Eastern, also Monday through Friday. But this has been Betting Weekly Hardball every single weekday, 2 p.m. Eastern. For Albert Nguyen, I'm Doug Kezirian, and we'll see you back here on Monday.